Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of GeoPod. I'm your host, Dylan Woods. First of all, I want to apologize for the delay. Unfortunately, I had to divert some of my attention to some of my other ongoing projects. But I'm here now, and on this episode, I'd like to discuss the ongoing hostilities within the Middle East, which have, dramatically escalated over the course of the past few weeks. And I just wish to take the time to share with you some of my thoughts, my analyses, and my commentaries regarding everything that has happened and is currently occurring as we speak. So I want to kick off with yesterday's long anticipated Iranian retaliatory attack on Israel, which materialized in exactly the same way as I predicted multiple times before on this channel. It was a long-range attack consisting of ballistic missiles, similar to the April one, only larger in scale. So let's take a look at that first and foremost. Let's just analyze what has occurred yesterday and what will come out of it in the short and long-term future. So let's start with the scope. So Iran attacked Israel yesterday in the afternoon, close to the evening, with approximately 180 ballistic missiles. The largest ballistic missile attack ever launched against Israel. Larger than the one they initiated in April of this year. However, if you take a look at the full scope of the attack and include additional Scud missiles, rockets, and UAVs, you come to the conclusion that the April attack was actually bigger in comparison to this latest attack. So that's quite a peculiar thing to notice. However, in terms of ballistic missiles, yes, the attack was larger in scale. Based on what I currently know and the intelligence that I have at my disposal, most of the targets that were targeted consisted of air bases, aerial defensive systems, and other military infrastructure, but also civilian infrastructure, including school buildings and office buildings. So Iran claimed in the aftermath of the attack that they sought to strike and damage solely military infrastructure. Well, obviously that was not the case, and actual footage stands as a testament to that. We have seen impacts in residential neighborhoods, I mean close to school buildings. We know that the Mossad headquarters was targeted not just by Iran, but by Hezbollah as well as the headquarters of Unit 8200. So obviously Iran wished to overwhelm Israel's aerial defensive systems by targeting as many various targets as possible. So then when we take a look at the damage, we must come to a similar conclusion as we did in April, that the damage has been, minimal to say the least. Some missiles found their targets or impacted in a close range to their ideal targets, but did very little damage. In fact, Israel has suffered 0 casualties in this latest attack. The only casualty that occurred, ironically, was in the West Bank, in the community of Jericho, and was a Palestinian man who got injured by a descending missile silo. So again, the damage has been minimal. And another testament to this, another example of this, is that Israel was able to continue its aerial campaigns in both Gaza and Lebanon at the moment that the strikes took place and in the direct aftermath of that. So the attack, although it was large in scale, did 0 damage when it came down to the actual degradation of Israel's military capabilities, similar as it did in April of this year. So now the question becomes, how is Israel going to respond to this? A couple days prior, at the United Nations Assembly, all Israeli authoritative figures spoke in a similar manner regarding the threats that their country was faced with. And they said, rather they pledged, that every aggression shown towards this country, from whatever party within the region, would be met with a forceful response. So now we must assume that Israel is going to focus its attentions on Iran directly and unleash a devastating counterattack that will severely degrade Iran's military capabilities, as well as pose as a deterrence for future escalations. So then the question becomes, how is Israel willing to go about this? Because as of right now, it's been engaged in 2 conflicts, right? It's been engaged in a year-long war in Gaza, which has severely degraded and all but annihilated the ranks of the Hamas terrorist network. It has launched, just mere days ago, a ground incursion, albeit a limited one, into southern Lebanon with the aim to degrade Hezbollah's military capabilities, so that it may longer pose a threat to their northern communities. So, are they willing to open up a third front, a potential third front, which will spread their resources even thinner? Are they willing to do that? Is the timing even right for such an endeavor to begin with? Well, that depends on a multitude of factors. For one, Israel can adhere to the same strategy it currently employs in Lebanon, a limited military operation which merely aims to degrade military capabilities of its enemy. Israel has the aerial capabilities to severely damage Iranian infrastructure, pretty much without any significant opposition or resistance. So, and that's if it solely acts on its own. I'm not even taking into consideration the fact that the US might support them in this endeavor, which obviously then we will look at an entirely different picture. There will be repercussions. That thing stands above all. I expect Israel to target Iranian oil fields, Iranian launch sites, and maybe even directly Iranian nuclear facilities, with the aim of either severely degrading or utterly annihilating their nuclear program, as well as their long-range capabilities in the short to mid-term. That's what I think an Israeli retaliatory attack will aim to achieve. Do I believe it will come to a clash of actual boots on the ground where the Middle East will be turned into one big giant battlefield? No, I don't think that will be at the order of at this point in time, given the fact that Israel is also engaged in two other ongoing conflicts, which I will discuss a little bit more in depth later. To summarize, again, what we can conclude is that still Iran has no sufficient way of bypassing Israel's aerial defensive systems, let alone when it's backed up by the US-led coalition of its allies within the region, who also aided in the Israeli response in order to neutralize and eliminate the incoming projectiles. Again, what's also interesting to note is that despite the failure of their April attack, Iran has chosen to adhere to a very similar strategy, which stands as a testament that it is simply desperate. It's unwilling, or it doesn't know how to strike Israel. It doesn't know how to bypass Israel's vast military superiority. It's just more of a symbol, let's say. We're attacking to save face, literally, even though we might, deduce that our chances of success are limited, to say the least. It stands as a testament to Iran's limited capabilities in regards to Israel, which in turn, in my opinion, the longer that lingers, will degrade its image within the region and will disrupt the unity within its so-called axis of resistance, which is based upon the status of Iran as a powerful overlord who can manage, support, finance, and reinforce the activities of its counter proxies within the region. However, now that it has shown on multiple occasions that it's unable to harm its arch nemesis directly, even though the scale of its campaigns can be considered to be vast, we must then assume that that image, that status that they wish to uphold, has been tainted with some cracks, and only time will tell how the rest of the axis of resistance will respond to that. Now, over the course of the past few weeks, we have seen an incredibly efficient Israeli campaign targeting Hezbollah, which has eliminated numerous of their fighters, hundreds of their fighters, and has degraded the combat capabilities of the organization to a vast extent. The entire higher command of Hezbollah has been annihilated, consisting of figures who have served in their position for decades and who had huge contributions in making Hezbollah the most heavily armed and well-organized non-state actor in the world. Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, who has assumed his position ever since 1992, had been eliminated in Beirut by an Israeli airstrike. A huge blow, not just to Hezbollah, but to the entire axis of evil that Iran has created. So Israel has shown time and time again that it's serious, as of this moment, in neutralizing or at the very least degrading the threat all around its borders, wherever they originate or emanate from. Whether it's Hezbollah in Lebanon or whether it's Hamas in Gaza. After the 7 October attacks and after a year-long terror campaign initiated by Hezbollah, which sought the displacement of between 60 and 80,000 of Israeli citizens in their northern communities, Israel has come to the conclusion that the current balance within the Middle East, if you can call it that, needs to shift. Changes need to be made and the geopolitical landscape needs to be altered. And that's what it's doing right now. Many may consider their current endeavors to be a campaign specifically targeting Hamas or specifically targeting Hezbollah. But as of right now, it has transformed into something much larger. This Israeli campaign targets the axis of resistance. It targets every element of it. That's why there are airstrikes being carried out in Syria. That's why there are airstrikes being carried out in Yemen. Israel is going after the entire axis of resistance with the aim to severely degrade its capabilities so they may no longer pose an active threat towards the country. That's what this is. And it might not necessarily stop at either Hamas or Hezbollah. After the capabilities of both before mentioned organizations have been degraded, Israel might very well turn to Syria, or turn to Iraq, or turn to Yemen, which have also, on a regular basis since October the 7th, have attacked Israel with missiles, rockets and drones alike. So every strike Israel carries out can be considered one in self-defense. And this is just a factual statement. Israel did not start this war. Israel did not start this campaign. Hamas started the campaign, followed by Hezbollah a day after. The first missile Hezbollah launched towards Israel on October the 8th occurred before one boot of an IDF soldier treaded the ground in Gaza. So when we call Israeli campaigns an act of aggression, we must resort back to the facts. And we can easily conclude that that's simply not the case. Israel is acting in self-defense. It just does so with extreme efficiency. And that's what many people, for some reason, within the international community, don't feel very comfortable with. And it stands to, in my opinion, as a testament to what's wrong with Western civilization today as a whole. Where we somehow put feebleness on a pedestal and scrutinize strength indiscriminately. But that's a topic for another day. So, like I said before, Israel is currently targeting the entire axis of resistance that was created by the Ayatollahs with the aim of increasing their influence throughout the region, posing a more severe threat towards Israel, ideally at one point annihilating it from the map in its entirety, before then turning towards the Western world. That's the end objective of the axis of resistance, or the axis of evil, as I rather like to call it, because that's what it is. It's an alliance of terrorist organizations and illegal militias fueled by a radical Islamic ideology with the aim to wreak havoc and anarchy within the region, destroy the only democratic state within it, before then performing similar feats within Western civilization. Similar to the end objectives of Al-Qaeda, similar to the end objectives of ISIS, and similar to the end objectives of the Muslim Brotherhood. It originates from the same tree, just the leaves have a different color. So Israel understands this, and Israel understands that if peace and prosperity is to come about within the Middle East, the axis of evil needs to be addressed. At the very least, its capabilities need to be degraded to such an extent that Iran and its proxies can no longer directly influence the region's stability and security, and sabotage or manipulate it in any way. So what Israel is trying to do through its campaign against the axis of evil is shift the balance of power. It wants to degrade capabilities. It wants to create a vacuum in the wake of that campaign, for which it can then increase its ties with the other Arab states, in particularly the Gulf states and Saudi Arabia, so as then form an even greater deterrent against Iran in any of its potential future endeavors geared towards the State of Israel and the region as a whole. That's what Israel wishes to do here. It's changing the status quo, altering it, disrupting it. It understands that sooner or later Iran needs to be addressed in one way or the other. The Ayatollahs are not going to stop. Hezbollah is not going to stop. Hamas is not going to stop. They have shown time and time again that they are unwilling to listen to reason, that they are unwilling to cooperate in any way, shape, or form. Their only agenda seems to be to corrupt, sabotage, and manipulate, to buy themselves time as to expand their influence, expand their capabilities, and even, at one point in time, reach the status of a nuclear power, which will obviously have dire consequences, not just for the region, but for global peace and security as a whole. So then the question becomes, what are we looking at here in terms of predictions? What is going to occur over the course of the following weeks? Well, as I've said before, I think Israel mainly is going to continue its campaign within Hezbollah, which right now poses the most immediate threat to its communities, rather than Iran. Obviously, the scope of its attack was rather vast, but it was quite incidental compared to the threat and to the attacks that Hezbollah has unleashed upon Israel's northern communities ever since October the 8th. So that's what I believe as Israel's priority right now. And that's what I believe they will divert most of their resources and troops to. However, I also believe that they have to respond to this latest Iranian aggression. They have to answer. They have to show that they are by far the most military capable country within the region. So they must reinstall their deterrent by vastly damaging and degrading Iran's long-range capabilities, as well as damaging its infrastructure, so that it gives it an impact to process, which may keep it at bay for some time. Do I believe that a full-scale imminent clash between Iran and Israel is imminent? I do not necessarily believe so, especially given the fact that the US is still present within the region to a vast extent, which I believe will stand as a deterrent to Iran to really escalate this conflict to a much higher degree. Again, this is a very volatile region, and every day new developments occur. So even as I'm saying this, something might happen at this very moment that just shatters that whole analogy, shatters that whole theory, and I have to remake or do an addendum on this video in a later stage. But anyway, as of right now, this is what I believe will occur. Israel will respond to Iran. It has to respond to Iran. It has said it's going to respond to Iran. But at the same time, I believe most of its resources and attention will be diverted to Hezbollah, which, as I said before, as of right now, poses the greatest threat to its communities. These are my thoughts on the subject. These are my commentaries. Again, as I've said before, I'm talking to you right now based upon the intelligence that I currently have at my disposal. The moment I gain more intelligence, the moment new developments occur, I'm sure to treat and discuss them on this channel. As of right now, this is all I have to share with you. Please leave a like beneath this video and subscribe to my channel. I aim to disseminate more content to you guys in the future. If you wish to reach out to me, leave a comment in the comment section below, or you can also reach out to me through one of my social media platforms, and I'll be more than happy to respond to you. Once again, thank you very much, and hope to see you all again next time. Thank you.